I'm sitting here with Mikle Brown from the Peavey Company down in Meridian, Mississippi, and I've invited him to come in and talk to you because he gets calls all the time about the tech things, about the new amps and stuff. So we're going to let him do his thing, what he ends up having to say to you on the phone, and explaining it to you in person what's going on. What's your actual title, Mike, down there?
I am the Peavey Consumer Information Services Representative.
Can you spell all that?
No.
I didn't think so. But the main thing is you field the calls and stuff that guys...
Right. We've just established a 1-800 number, which is 1-877-732-8391.
And I'll put that on the screen, too.
Which is our first consumer toll-free line. Direct. It comes direct to my desk.
Right. And actually, the job, if anybody wants to ask about what did they call you for?
Well, right now it's anything and everything. We have future plans for that to expand. But right now, we're just kind of sampling the incoming phone calls to see what kind of calls we're getting and how many goes to what department and how many goes to customer service.
Oh, what are you getting now? What are the guys asking about?
Well, the consumer, the musician on the local level is asking about anything and everything we make. Keyboards, drums, guitars, steel guitar amps, et cetera, et cetera.
If a guy's got a Transtubefex or something and he doesn't know how to set it up or he can't make sense of it, can he call you and you help him over the phone?
He can.
Well, as that's what we're doing on this video. We're going to try to answer some of those questions that are a little more technical. That would be hard to do on the phone, aren't we?
Right.
So we'll go to the front of the effects units and the front of the amplifiers, and we'll talk about those things. But if you've got a question that is not answered here, or if you just want to know some information about an amp, this is the guy you'll talk to, and don't be hesitant to call that number. Mike will be there 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 5 days a week.
Let's say 5.
Say 5 for right now. All right, we'll get into the amps here right fast, and we'll talk about everything that he knows about. Mike, I'm going to let you just talk about this. This is the newest amp from Peavey, I guess. I'll just let you tell them what's going on here.
The latest introduction into the steel guitar amp line at Peavey Electronics is the Nashille 1000. It is a mono amplifier. It is rated at 300 watts of digital power. It's a brand new digital amp design. It has a 1501 4-ohm shallow basket Black Widow speaker. And that speaker is capable of handling much power. It can, the cabinet is all wood design, and which is a little different than the past design. Yeah,
sometimes they made, composite wood or something like that?
Right. It was a combination of particle board and plywood.
Yeah.
And this amplifier is totally voiced unlike any of the other amps we've made in the past. The one particular feature that has surprised me when we did A/B comparisons is the screwed-in baffle as opposed to the glued-in baffle, which we used to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've basically changed all of our designs on a lot of our amps to a screwed-in baffle simply because it makes the amp sound different.
I've got a good question here, too. A lot of guys have called me and asked me, why would I buy the Nashille 1000 when, I've got a Vegas or I've got an old Session 400. This is not the same kind of power amp in either, is it?
No, this is again, an all-new total redesign of the power amplifier. It's rated at 300 watts.
But it's digital now.
It's digital.
Which means the response on it is much faster. It's like the DPC 750
That's
or the
correct.
1000.
That's correct. And it's extremely clean. You don't have all your bulky analog transformers. Anybody who looks into the back of this amplifier, around to the back panel, you'll see one small transformer.
Yeah, we'll look in there just a minute, by the way.
And which makes the amp lighter.
Yeah, what is the weight? Do we know?
The weight is 57 pounds.
As opposed to what a Vegas was, let's say.
A Vegas, I don't have a specific number, but that was probably 66 to 70 pounds.
So we're talking about 10 to 15 pounds lighter.
Right.
And I've noticed just picking it up, it's a lot easier on me. I'm a little guy.
And that's extremely important to a lot of folks.
All right, we'll look at the back, we'll look at the front, we'll go through each knob right fast. You want to do that?
Sure.
Okay. Mike, I'm going to let you just start from left to right here and tell them what's going on in case, that I'm sure they ask about these things, what to plug in and what the knobs do. So it's your turn.
Sure. The front panel features of the Nashille 1000 amplifier, from left to right, you've got a two inputs, which is high gain and low gain. The high gain is for basically passive pickups, and the low gain is basically for stronger output pickups or maybe active pickups.
Well, which one would a steel player want to use, for instance?
He could use both. He or she could use both. It depends on how much output their pickup has. If they notice any type of distortion when they plug into the high gain input, they may want to try the low gain input.
Yeah, I've never had any trouble with the high gain part, though. Steel guitar usually, they'll ride on the back side of the volume pedal, and it's rather low, so they need the high gain.
Could be true.
Yeah.
It depends on the situation. There's a lot of devices, clip-on devices of the leg to the leg that may increase the output,
Yeah.
which, you know, there may be some instances where you want to maybe decrease the input going into the amplifier, and in that case you would use the low gain.
Okay.
All right, then you got the pre-gain volume control. The pre-gain takes that input signal, which is fed into the lower high gain input, and feeds it into the rest of the input of the amplifier. The next two jacks on here is a pre-EQ patch. Now what that is a patch point in the circuit after the pre-gain control, before the EQ, that allows you to patch in your volume pedal. I've seen a lot of guys who don't use this, and there are some that are using it. It does require 3 cables total for a steel guitar and a volume pedal. The method of patching that is you have a send jack, which is the same thing as an output. You would feed a shielded cable into the input of your volume pedal. You would take another shielded cable and come out of the output of your volume pedal and feed it back into the return jack. What this does and could do, depending on the volume pedal, is it can decrease the reverb tail, or it could increase the reverb tail. In other words, if you shut your volume pedal off, your reverb may shut off at the same time. It has a couple of other features, but I won't get into that. We'll move along next to the equalization circuit. You have a low, you have a mid, you have a shift, you have a high, and you have a presence. Okay, your low is basically your bass control, and this is an active circuit, and you'll notice that at the 12 o'clock position is 0, meaning that when this control is at 0, there's no effect on the bass. You boost it or you cut it. So a normal position for this, in a lot of cases that I've noticed, is somewhere on the plus side. The mid and the shift control work in conjunction with each other. In other words, if the mid was set at 0, the shift would have no effect. But if it was at a -6, -9 position, you would definitely hear a noticeable effect when you turn the shift control, and you adjust that accordingly and to your taste.
Yeah, and most steel guitar players, the mid is what we don't want to hear, so you'll see us setting it pretty well to the left like that, and then setting the shift around 800 or so.
That's correct.
So
That's correct.
That's pretty well set right there where a guy might
That's
actually
right.
play this amp.
That's right.
That's what a lot of guys do, in fact.
About 75% of the guys that I've spoken with do use that same setting there, and that just tells me that a lot of us have the similar taste.
Yeah.
The high control is your treble in terms of the olden days, and usually that's boosted. Depends on your guitar, your strings. It depends on your playing style, a lot of things. And the same thing with the presence, which is the extreme high end of the voicing.
I've noticed, even off the old amps, a lot of people, if they boost the highs a hair, they do the presence the same.
That's correct.
The two seem to follow each other concentrically.
They do. That's the same experience I've had with a lot of players. Your post EQ patch, this is something new. The Nashille 400, we did not have this on the front panel, but it is on this one, and that's a basic patching. Another patch point, which is post EQ, as opposed to pre EQ. Post EQ, and that's where you patch in your favorite effects device, a delay pedal. It would require 2 shielded guitar cables to patch that in. And then you have your reverb control, which is a spring reverb that is the amp comes equipped with. And then you have a master gain control. Well, this master gain control sends what is fed through the circuit to the input of the power amp, and that determines how hard you drive the power amp. In other words, in most all cases, you want to have this at a higher setting than your pre-gain. So,
yeah, but the reason being distortion.
That's correct.
If the master gain is set lower than the pre-gain, then the pre-gain is overdriving, literally. If a guy wants a nasty sound, that's a good way to get it.
You could get premature distortion if those controls are in reverse. I want to mention that this circuit is the same circuit that we used in the Nashille 400, and it does have the enhanced modification on the circuit, which is an improved voicing of the amplifier. In addition to the cabinet style and the 1501 Black Widow speaker and the extremely clean digital power amplifier, this amplifier is unlike any other amp in the steel guitar line that we've ever made. It sounds extremely good.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the back and we'll talk about what the patch points are back there. All right, Mike, these are there's basically just 3 jacks on the back. You want to tell them what they do?
Sure. All right, from left to right, the back panel features are a remote switch, which is a foot switch that we include with the amplifier. Now, granted, most steel guitar players have more to do with their feet, so they don't have time for a foot switch, but we do include it because this is a very good, clean jazz amplifier for jazz guitars.
And you're holding that switch there. Tell them what it's doing there now.
All right, this is a 2-button foot switch, and what it does, it has a select / effects button, which allows you to defeat or activate whatever's patched in your post EQ effects loop. And then you have a reverb activate and defeat switch, which is naturally the internal spring reverb.
Right.
The next 2 jacks, if you'll see, we usually indicate they're blocked off, so they have something to do with each other. So the first one is the power amp input, which is accessed directly into the power amp and the speaker. And then the next one is a preamp out, which is an output from the preamp only. I
want to add something in here too. This is probably the most confusing thing to most steel players. What they don't realize, and a lot of guys are using effects units now. Let's talk about this right now because we're looking at the problem. A lot of guys have a Transtubefex or a Profex or a Lexicon or something, and they'll take the output of that because it's an effects unit, and they go to the front of the amp, and we don't want to do that. That's the input right there, isn't it? The power amp in.
Right.
And is it not defeating when you go into that? It defeats the whole front of the amp, so it doesn't matter what's set up there, right?
That's correct. It is a line level input. So if your effects device, whatever it may be, Profex or a Tubefex, those are both line level devices. So if you plug either one of those into this power amp input jack, it will defeat anything on the front panel of this amplifier, and all your controls will be off of the Tubefex or the Profex. And that's what a lot of guys do. That's one way to patch it into this. There's certainly nothing wrong with placing the output of your effects device into the front instrument input, but the only thing is that instrument input is a low-level guitar input. And
it also creates... They complain about the actual white noise. It makes a lot of noise when you come out of the effects unit and go straight to the front because you're preamping it twice,
That's
literally.
Correct.
And this way, you're just using the power amp and the speaker and letting the effects unit do all the preamping. And that's the whole point of it, isn't it?
That's correct. Using this power amp input, you're basically using this as a slave.
That's the whole idea. That's what I was saying, yeah. Okay.
Okay. The last jack on the back panel is the line out. This is something new to the steel amps that we haven't featured in a few years. I think the last one we had a line out on was the Session 500. And this allows you to patch an XLR cable direct into a console, such as in a live situation if you're playing live or recording. And you don't have to use a microphone to mic your amplifier.
That's a great idea. Because, I mean, they go in the studio, they can go direct to tape.
Right.
That's good.
That's basically it on the back panel. You can see that we have the 1501 Black Widow's speaker, and that is Shallow Basket, which is our latest introduction for steel guitar. It's been out for 3 or 4 years, and it's doing real well for us.
And I notice that when we're looking at it like that, you don't see that big power transformer hanging down there anymore. That's where the weight was.
That's correct. That's where some of the weight was taken away. The only transformer you have is back here, and it's real small.
And that whole thing's light.
This heat sink, I've done this before. If this amp has been on 10 hours, you can take this heat sink and touch it all day. It stays that cool.
This is the new Session 2000 that Peavey's making, and I'm going to let Mike tell you about it. A lot of people have never got to see this yet, have they, Mike?
No, they haven't. This is a brand new steel guitar amplifier that we're in process with right now. It's in its prototype stages and should be on the market the first of the year of 2000, which is coming up shortly. There's no relation between Session 2000 and the year 2000, though. The Session 2000 is an amplifier which is rated at 300 watts of continuous power, digital power, clean digital power. It has the same cabinetry as the Nashille 1000 and the new powered extension cabinet, which is called the PX300, that we'll show in just a few seconds here. The amplifier comes equipped with a 1501 4-ohm shallow basket speaker, which is standard in all Peavey steel guitar amplifiers. It also comes equipped with a programmable, editable effects section, and you can save your presets depending on how you set them up to include whatever effect that you would like them to include. This amplifier includes just about all effects you'd ever need.
Let me ask a question here, too. Insert this thing. What we're looking at here is the old Profex and the Transtubefex and all that, which preceded this, were always rack-mounted. Literally, why I like this amp, I think it's beautiful, is that that's built into this amp in it. That's what we're looking at.
That's
it's
correct.
Digital power, and it's the Profex or the Transtube, whatever they're used to, or if they've never seen that, here it's sitting.
Right. We've rearranged this preamp, and it's quite a bit different than some of the models we've done in the past, but it has a lot of similarities. For example, the programmable pots, these are actually motorized, and you can save your EQ settings per preset. And also the effects that would be included within that preset can be saved, and you can rename them, which I'll get to in just a second. The whole amplifier, the idea is to take the knowledge that the experience and knowledge that we've had in the past with Tubefex, Profex, and the Transtubefex programmable preamps and put it inside an amplifier to have a self-contained model. This processor is set up for stereo processing. However, you can use it in a mono situation. I'd like to go from left to right and kind of give you an idea of what the features are. On the extreme left side of the amplifier, we have a low gain and high gain input, which is just that. One is a low gain input, one is a high gain input. The low gain input is normally used for guitars which have active pickups, or they have very strong passive output pickups. This input should be used if you experience any kind of premature distortion or clipping on the front end. The high gain input is for your regular guitars that have a normal output. They work in 99% of, the high gain input works in 99% of all situations.
Steel guitar especially.
Correct.
That's where a steel player is going to plug in.
That's correct. The next control is a pre-gain input control. This is similar to all other amplifiers that we've manufactured in the past with a pre-gain control. It determines how much of that input signal that is fed into the inputs that is taken from that point and fed into the rest of the amplifier. Next, you have a send and return pedal patch, which is a unique feature to Peavey products only. And the requirements for this pedal patch is that you use 3 cables You take one cable and plug it out of the send output jack into the input of your volume pedal, and then you take the second cable and come out of the output of your volume pedal back into the return. This can improve the sound in a lot of instances, and is a little known feature on our amps that is not used very much, but I hope that a lot of the guys will catch on to this if they'll try it. If you have questions concerning this, you can always call me at the factory.
A question here, too, while we're talking about that. Isn't the whole point of this thing that what we're sending all the signal that the guitar has straight to the amp, because effects work better off of a strong signal. If we come out of the pedal, and a lot of people use the backside of the pedal, they feed just a little signal to the effects, and they're not healthy like they ought to be.
That's right. We don't know what kind of volume pedals are being used out there. I'm sure there's a vast assortment of pedals being used, and the main idea is to get the output from the pickup of your guitar, steel guitar, directly into the input of the amplifier, so that the amplifier has enough signal to work with. If you've got a volume pedal or an effects device in between the output of your guitar and the input of the amp, it may or may not be degrading the signal that's fed into the input of the amplifier. So that just gives you that option so that you can have sufficient signal for the amplifier to amplify.
Right. All right.
Okay. Next, this is real unique to this amp. This is the first time we've ever done this. I'll move over to the right of the LCD display, and you'll see that there's 4 buttons. There's 4 LEDs here. There's a classic, a modern, a Nashille, and a session. Now, what this is, if you remember, I just briefly told you that you could program this EQ circuit and store it into the memory of this amplifier. Well, you can also choose an EQ curve to use. For example, if you had a classic, well, I can't program this right now. We'll have to program the tube section, which is this section, into the preset chain before it will show one of these lighted LEDs. For example, if you have a classic EQ curve chosen here, that is a pre-stored EQ curve in the memory, and when you pull it up in your LCD display as an effect, which the abbreviation for the mode here is TB for tube. I stand corrected. It's ST for steel.
For steel. Okay.
And what that will do is pull up that classic EQ curve that is programmed into the ROM memory of this amplifier, and give you that certain curve of a classic style of EQ, which is used in a lot of our competitor amps. The next mode is modern, which is also used in some of the competitor amps. So overall, you can use these 2 curves and emulate other amplifiers on the market for steel guitar. And naturally, we have a Nashille mode, which is the EQ curve for a Nashille 400. You also have a session, which is a session 400. In this instance, we have 2 sessions in here, which are set up and will be introduced with some of the pre-programmed presets that will come with the amplifier. We have the old 1970s session, and then we have the session session 400 limited, which is was our last session 400 that we manufactured within the past few years. You have a clip light, which will give you an indication of when this circuit is being clipped, and you can back off the pre-gain to help get rid of that distortion situation or clipping situation. This LCD display, naturally, you can pull up to 127 presets, and even more than that. I'll go a little bit further, 256, and which is probably more than anyone would ever use. But you can also customize your own presets, as well as have a bank full of factory presets, and you can pick and choose which ones you want to use and remap them. Remapping means just that. You're changing presets around in order so that if you're on the bandstand at night and you use preset 0, and then you want to go to preset 100, you can remap that 100 to preset 1. So all you have to do is push one button to go to 1 instead of going from 0 to 100. And you can do any of the 127 presets that way. By the way, bank A of your presets is in ROM, which is read-only memory, and those cannot be edited. But when you're in RAM, which is read access memory, you can rearrange, change the parameters, revoice those particular presets, and store them as your custom presets. You can also name that preset. I'll show you an example here. If I wanted to, this particular preset is one that Mr. Jeff Newman programmed, and it is for the Profex 2. We have loaded the Profex 2 presets into this memory, and if you'll notice, it does not have ST for steel EQ. So what I'm going to do is take this preset, and I will place ST in the chain of effects. Now, ST is a gain effect, so in most cases, you would want to...
Oh, we need to... A lot of people have never seen this thing. You just did something. Let's voice it. What you did to get that screen was to hit the edit button, right?
Yes, let me back up.
Edit means it's going to give you a chance to change the program.
That's correct. Let me back up a bit here so there won't be any confusion. Okay, we've got Mighty Good selected here, and it contains in the chain of effects, you'll see the chain of effects here on the bottom. You'll see 3B, which is 3-band EQ, CF, which is chorus flange, DL, which is delay, and then RV for reverb. In between each of those effects, you'll see a plus. Now, there are two particular signs that you can use. You can use plus, or there's an arrow which points to the right. Now, plus means that the effects are they're in parallel, and the arrow means they are in series. You can picture this as a floor full of effects pedals. You'll have a 3-band EQ effects pedal, chorus flange, etc., etc. So that's a good way to look at it. And as you adjust each of those parameters of these effects, you'll get different voicings, whether you have parallel or you have in series. Let me move on down. What I want to do here is insert the ST steel parameter into this chain of effects, so that this ST parameter will allow you to adjust these controls to your taste, and you'll hear the change. You can do the change real time, so you're not guessing at what you've got. You can hear it when you turn the knobs, but first you need to push the edit button in order to store ST in the chain of effects, and I would put ST at the beginning because it is a gain effect. So you'll see, normally, you'll see the blinking cursor under 3. Now, I'll go back and we'll do that real quick. So you see it's under A. So if you hit edit, you'll see it's under 3. Okay? I would move the blinking cursor to one place to the left, and I would hit add, the add delete button over here in the button section. And you'll see it pulls up CM, which is for compressor. And you don't want compressor, you want ST. So you either hit the up or down button until you get to ST. And what you'll see is that each control will change. The LEDs on those controls will change.
That's another question. We've got all those strange looking signs there. Run through them and say what they are.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll start here. SP is splitter, and you'll see a little arrow below that. Now, the cool thing about this amp, since it's set up for stereo, is that you can have the first line of effects, in this case. You would always put the splitter first because you want to split the signal. So you got this first line of effects, but what you can also do, real briefly with the splitter, is you can come all the way over here. Okay, and you can hit add delete, and what it will do is bring up another effect down here on the lower line. And what that's doing is If you're running in stereo, let's say you've got a reverb on the right side and you've got a delay on the left side. Well, that's exactly what you'll hear. If you've got a second powered speaker or a second amplifier on the second side, you would actually hear the reverb coming out of one side and the delay coming out of the other.
So it's doing exactly what it says. It's splitting the
That's
signal
what it does.
left and right.
That's correct. Now, we'll back up and go over here under splitter so I can change and describe what the effects are. It'll run through every effect that's available. Naturally, it's not going to pull up the 3B or CF or DL or RV because you've already got them up on the screen. But what you can do is just hit the up or down button, and you'll see that the effects change, and that's speaker simulator. That's still. You saw that all of the lights on the controls went dead. Well, they didn't go dead. They just are not programmed yet. So what I would do is just turn each and every one up, and you can do this in real time again, meaning that you can sit there and listen to what you're changing as you control the knobs or you turn the controls. And I'm just going to take a quick guess at maybe a setting, okay? Now, if I wanted that in the chain of effects, and you see it changed, and every time you turn a control, it's going to change with it, no matter what control you turn. Now, in this case, we've got classic EQ up, and this first control acts like a shift, so it pulls up shift. But in the other modes, you're going to see that it changes the function of the first control. For example, on modern, it may change it to a low as opposed to a shift. It just depends on what mode you're in, and that's a real neat trick.
Well, change the mode right fast. How would you change the mode?
Okay. Let me store this so I don't lose what we've got. So it'll hit, if I hit store, it'll say, do you want to store Mighty Good to U0, which is user bank number 0. And if I wanted to do that, I would hit store and it would say store complete. I'm going to stop here and we're going to do something else, which is real neat. We're going to change the name of that preset. If you play several different locations and maybe you play 4 or 5 different venues and you want to make sure that when you come back to that venue, you have the same EQ that you had the last time you played there. Most local musicians are, as far as that goes, pro musicians. They have a certain amount of clubs that they play, church events they play, or coliseums they play. So they want to name that particular preset. If they wanted to name that the VFW, if they wanted to name it Parkview Church, if they wanted to name it Joe's Bar, I mean, they can do that just by hitting. You'll see the blinking cursor is down here under the 0. So if I wanted to move it up into this parentheses up here, I just hit the right arrow button once, and you'll see it moves under the first letter. All right, you hit the up or down button until you get to the letter that you choose for the name of that venue. Let's say we want to change this to Parkview Church or Parkview, or
you can abbreviate. Most people do
you
that.
can abbreviate, yeah. There's a certain number of spaces here that allows you to put so many letters within that parentheses, so you may have to abbreviate. So just simply push the button, and then if you want to change the next letter, and in this particular thing, we can put the whole word in Parkview, but for time's sake, we'll briefly go through and I'll show you how to change those letters. See, there's A, okay, and this is at G, so I want to change it to R.
Yeah, and it's got a full uppercase and it's got lowercase as well.
That's right.
As well as numbers, if you want to give it
numbers and symbols.
Yeah.
So that's how you do that, and all you do after that is store. So even though that doesn't spell anything, I'm going to hit store. We know what it is. See, it comes up, it pulls up the preset again on bank A, and that's what I did. Now you can change the rest of that name to whatever you want it to be. And that will identify that venue when you go back to that spot, and that will allow you to say, hey, I'm back at this club again. I'd sure like to pull up the same sound that I had last time. So you pull up the preset and you're there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Changing an effect. I showed you how to change the steel settings. If I wanted to change, let's say I wanted to change the type of reverb.
Now wait a minute. Let's go back a minute. We started to change the EQ style.
Okay.
Let's finish that first.
Good point. Okay. Well, right here, you can see I can change it right now.
So there's just a button that says mode, and that's
right.
what you change it to.
That's correct. So you can also go back and change whatever's in that effects chain, which I'll show you how to do real briefly. Each effect has its own parameters, so it would take a lot of time to show you each and every one. A lot of experimentation would be good on this, but we're going to offer a preset memory bank when you buy the amplifier that will already have steel guitar presets and fiddle presets.
And they can get the RAM card and put it in there. And a lot of people have never seen that. You've got the RAM card. Show it to them,
right.
what we got there.
Now this is what we call a cache card 32, and that is a RAM card. In other words, you can store your own preset, your own customized sounds onto this card, and you can insert it into this slot, which is the RAM cartridge slot, and that's what we've done prior to shooting this video. And what you do, you hit whatever screen you come up on. Let's select this play mode again. You can hit global, and the first screen I pull up, now you may not always pull up that screen, but the first screen I pull up is a screen that says Save User C cartridge, okay, which is this. I want to store what's on this cartridge into the memory bank. So I want to store it, but when you save to a card. When you load from the card to the internal memory. So that's the terminology on that.
But the top line's also telling you the order of things.
That's right.
It's saying it's going from the user, which is the amplifier,
that's correct,
to the card.
That's correct.
Go to the next one, and they can see the idea too.
Okay. Load, naturally, is to load. So you can see cartridge load complete. Now that says that everything that was on this card is in the memory of this. Now, it did not override on that. The reason being, because this button or slide switch on the side of this card is in the write protect mode.
Which means to the left.
To the left when you're looking at the card, the edge of the card. Write protect means that this card has a switch on it which locks the memory of what's on this card and will not let you store. Which is a good feature because you don't want to lose your own customized presets. Now, if I slid the switch to the right, it will let me do it. It says store the name of the preset to user bank. So that's what we'll do. Okay, it stored it to that bank.
So you'll have to hit store twice to actually execute this thing. You won't do it by mistake. It's going to ask you sort of
it's
like
going
twice.
to ask you what do you want to do with that information. That's what it's asking you. So, okay. I don't know if I missed anything, but if I did, I've got a toll-free phone number.
Yeah. Go back again to the edit. We were going to go through each one of the effects and say what they were.
Okay. Oh, okay. I got you. All right. Well, we're on the same preset, so I'm going to hit edit. All right. In order to save time, you can pull up all the remainder of the effects that are not shown here in this particular spot because that's what we're changing. So if I wanted to see what the other effects that were available for this particular chain of effects, I would just hit the up or down button, doesn't matter. That particular preset abbreviation is for steel. You saw the controls activate. So there's tube.
That actually puts all the tube knobs in the circuit.
Right.
Yeah.
Tremolo, 4-band parametric EQ, 5-band EQ. That is compressor, I think.
Yeah.
That is a be honest with you, I forget what that is, but I'm thinking that's a...
we don't use it much for steel.
No.
I don't think of it either.
That's one of the many effects I've never seen anybody use. That is, I think that's a some type of chorus. I would have to confirm that on the manual.
Hit the edit button and see what it says.
That's true. We can do that.
It'll tell you what it's doing.
That's your classic EQ, my mistake. That's your classic EQ.
So that, if you're not sure what something is, you can hit the edit button,
Good
and it'll
point.
tell you what the controls are. I mean, this is a good experiment in what people go through to find out what they are.
That's a good
We're
point.
having to do the same thing.
It will spell it out what it is.
You realize we've got an amplifier here that's smarter than we are.
Obviously. Okay. Let me get back to where I was. All right. Classic EQ, that makes sense. CQ. It's abbreviated to tell you what it is, but you can always hit that edit button and it'll say what it is. My mistake. All right. CT, it's a coil tap. DS, that's distortion, and you can hear a little bit of noise there because distortion is definitely a gain effect, and any gain effect will add noise to the particular chain of effects. That's what gain effects do. Envelope filter, that's a type of effect. Exciter. FX is not an effects, even though it says effects. What that is, it's abbreviated with FX, and what that will allow you to do is to patch in your outside or an additional effects unit into the back of this amplifier, and we can show you how to do that when we reverse this amplifier and show you the back panel. But what it will do is allow you to use any effects you would like to, patch it into the effects loop on the back, and store it. And anytime you pull up FX in your chain of effects, that will activate that external device. So, you're not confined to just what's in this memory.
Yeah, if a guy has a lexicon or something like that,
That's correct.
and he liked the sound of it, he can still use it with this amp, and it just becomes the integral part of one of his other effects.
That's correct.
It's a great idea.
That's correct. All right, I think this MX, that's the mix. That's tells you how much of the dry signal's mixed in with the wet signal. Noise gate, overdrive, another gain effect. Pitch 1.
It's a pitch shift, isn't it?
That's a pitch.
Sort of like a chorus. It has the effect of that.
Yes, it's not a harmonizer. That's one question I get. It's not a harmonizer, but it can give you tones above or below that particular tone, which will give you a pitch type of effect. And you got pitch 2, so there's 2 of them in this amp. A phase. I think that's what it says. The angle of this is a little difficult to see. You have a pan control that you can pan the effect to left or right. RS is rotating speaker, which is...
like a Leslie.
That's correct.
It was a great sound. I miss the old Leslie.
That's an effect that I like a lot. Splitter, we're back to splitter.
Yeah.
So everything that we've gone through in this particular position can be added to whatever's here, and you can create your preset.
And the main thing is they don't need to be afraid to play with these knobs. They need to get in and fool around with them, and they can actually turn the knobs while they're playing, and they hear it change.
Right.
And when they find something they like, they just save it.
That's the way to do it. You always want to take any amplifier. I mean, if you've never played it before, you always want to take that amplifier and try it out at home before you get on stage and play it in front of a lot of folks. So this will give you that option of sitting down and getting many presets before you play. And if there's one that you don't like, you don't have to turn around and turn a control. You can always go to the next preset, see if that fits that application.
All right, let's turn it around. Why don't we do that, and we'll look at the back.
Okay.
All right, we're looking at the back of the amp now. Mike, you just want to go through it one at a time, see what we got?
Yes. From left to right. This is the right side of the back panel of the Session 2000. You have a mono send, which is just that. It's a single signal that can be sent to whatever device you want to send it to. You can send this to a recording board, send it to another direction if you're playing live on stage, maybe to the monitor mixer, et cetera, et cetera. Below that, you have a power amp input. This is the input to the power amplifier. And one misconception that I've encountered several years is that people think they need to plug an output of an amplifier into this power amp input, and that is definitely not the case. That is the input to the internal 300-watt power amplifier of this amp. So
the thing is, if they have like another effects unit and they want to use just this power amplifier and ignore all the other, it's like we talked about on the 1000.
That's correct.
They can use just the power and the speaker.
That's correct. To the right of those, you have your effects loop, which is you have a return section here, which is the input. That's where you return your external effects. If you have a stereo effects device, you would return it here. And then you have a section which is pre-out, which is your preamp out. That is the preamp signal left and right that you can send to an external power amplifier to drive more speakers if that's what you wish to do. This can be used, the preamp out along with the mono send can be used to be routed to go to the PX300, which is your powered extension enclosure.
Or could it maybe go to a control board in a studio?
That's correct. That's correct. Okay, then you have your MIDI out through, and that's exactly what that is. It's an output. The through allows you to insert your MIDI signal into the input, and by using it as a through, it can be sent to another device. It's kind of a dual purpose output jack. The line out, left and right, is exactly what that is. These are two balanced outputs which can be sent to a recording board for a stereo mix. Naturally, the mixer would require you to have access to two open channels, and that will give you full stereo if you're using internal stereo effects.
And also, where I can see this would be effective for the guys that might use this on stage if they want to go direct to their control board, and they could actually have stereo signal coming off stage.
That's correct. And this would allow you to use a balanced output, which is a 3-pin XLR connector, and that's really the way you want to use that. All of these other jacks have several purposes, but this line out that's exactly what it's designed for, is to run to a recording board, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, we've got the Peavey PX300, which is an extension cabinet. But again, I'm going to defer to Mike here and let you tell you what's going on, because this is the new stuff. You really want to know this.
The PX300 is a brand new introduction to the steel guitar line of products at Peavey Electronics, and it is a 300-watt digital powered enclosure. In other words, the 300-watt digital power amp is built in to the PX300. It also features an all-wood cabinetry design. It includes the 1501 4-ohm shallow basket speaker, which is specifically designed for steel guitar applications. And the only control on this amplifier is a volume or a level control. And what that will do, naturally, is increase or decrease the level into that particular power amplifier and speaker. There are several applications that this can be used for. And just about every steel guitar amplifier that we've ever made for the past 20 or 25 years has a preamp out or a booster output jack on it. Now, that booster output jack or preamp out jack is sufficient level to drive the input of this PX300. So this is a good situation where you could use this particular product with any steel guitar amplifier out there that has that preamp output. And you can have a fuller sound in most cases.
Now, let's give an example here, too. Isn't the idea for this, like a lot of guys have a Transtubefex or an old Profex or something like that, and they could have a couple of these now and just come out of the back of the Profex or the Transtube or a Tubefex for that matter and go to two of these directly in and and you'd have a great stereo sound.
That's exactly right. That's one of the applications for it. That would work very well. There are musicians out there that are doing this right now, just using their Tubefex, Profex 2, or their Transtubefex with just 2 of these cabinets and getting that stereo separation. This cabinet was also designed to be used with the Session 2000. If you remember, I previously described the Session 2000 as having a stereo processor, and in order to get stereo, it requires that you have a left and right channel. And this will do this. This will allow you to do that along with the Session 2000 amplifier. That is basically it. I mean, it's a real simple product. It's a real good product that can be used in several different applications.
We need to kind of run over something here too, that when you get a Transtubefex, a lot of you have the old Profexes and you have the Tubefex and the Transtubefex, and a lot of times you'll get it and it won't have good programs in it. We have this cash card that you can get, obviously, and this is all this thing looks like. It's like that, and you just slip it right in there, in that little slot, in the RAM slot like that. And to load the programs that are on that cash card is very simple. You just put it in there and make sure you've got the silver side down and the printing up like this. And it's got that little switch right there. Make sure it's all the way to the right toward that outside so you can't erase it. But you hit the global button 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. So it'll call up all this little screen here, which is a little strange looking thing. But by hitting the global button 7 times, you'll get to where you can save or load the stuff off this card, the card or the cartridge to the inside. Now, you'll notice over in here, there are several things. It's saying save, and it's saying load, and it's saying in. And in means initiate. Well, you can use the left and the right buttons here, and notice the cursor moving from there to here. And as you move it over here, it'll move there. This means initialize. Well, that's initializing the card. Well, we don't want to do that. In other words, that would be saving what's in the machine here over here to the card. We don't care about that. What we want to load, and it's telling you here in the top, we're going to load the cartridge to the user. Well, the user is the machine here, so that's what we care about. The cartridge has the information on it, and the arrow says it's going to go from the cartridge to the user. So all we would do at this point is make sure it's under there, and actually save is the user to the cartridge if I went to the left there. So if I was going to go and I want to save something from the machine here to the cartridge, I'd use that one. So I want to bring the cursor to the load part, and all I do is come over here where to the store button. It's the far right hand button, and hit the store, and it'll say cartridge load complete. That's all longer it takes to load all these things in. You come back to play and you're in business, and you ought to be able to read either off of the A bank, it's going to load it into the A bank, or you could leave the cartridge right in here and just read right off the cartridge. Now, you'll see that all these programs are in the A, but if I back up and use the down arrow, I can back up to the C bank, which is for cartridge, and I'm reading off the cartridge now. So you don't actually have to load them in there, but I suggest it. I mean, why not? Why carry the card around all this time? But it's possible. You could have a whole cartridge full of 128 programs and then be over here on the A bank. It's transferred them all. Now, if I go out, hold the button down, I can go all the way up to B, and these are the B bank. There's 128 or so of those, and those are all non-changeable. You can't program those. Those are from the factory, and they're guitar settings that a steel guitar player could not possibly use. And the fact is, I don't know a guitar player that uses these things. So you don't want to be in the B bank at all. You want to be back over here in the A bank. Now we're talking about something else. A lot of people, let me pull the card out because we won't be using that anymore. A lot of people will get a Profex, or not necessarily Profex, but a Transtubefex or the old Tubefex, and you may get one of these, and they're great little machines, but a lot of people find that you're not getting enough power out of your amplifiers when you use it. Well, we're going to come out of the back of the Transtube or the Tubefex, and it's got 2 outputs in the back, and we're going to go straight to the power amp in on the power amps that you're using. It might be the the extension cabinets we're talking about here, or it might be an old Nashille 400, or it might be a Session 400, whatever, you find out that you don't have enough power. Well, that's because the Transtube or the Tubefex is usually shipped with the power settings down, and you want to change those. So you come to the global setting and hit it once, twice, and you see what happens. The second global screen says the input level, and most of them are shipped, as I recall, at about 58%. So the input level is only at about 58% or so. And if I come on over here, if I come with the right arrow, you can see the low EQ levels is plus 13. The mid EQ levels are about minus 25. I wouldn't mess with those. They're fine. And the high EQ. But the output is around 58%. So this machine is set at the factory at around 58% or in the 50s somewhere. And you want to get it up. If you need more power, well, just go to where the cursor is under the output and notice what the output level is and hit that up arrow. And I mean, you can take this thing to where it's twice as loud. So you got the output level and you're going to get some white noise here, you know, some hissy noises. So you may not want to run it all the way there, but at least bring it up a little bit and see what happens, and then adjust it back over here. You can come back over to the input level. And again, let's say this. You don't want to have the input level way up here at 100% because you're just cramming all the signal you can over here into the output level, and if the input level is higher than the output level, you're going to hear distortion. So the first thing you want to do if you need more power is come into the global. Let's say we're here again. Here's what it looks like. You hit the global button twice, and you come to the levels. And I would say, you know, keep the. Let me come back. Use the down arrow. I'm on the input level. That's what I want. Keep the input level somewhere between 50 or 60, something like that, and then come over here to the output level and increase it first and see what you get. And if that's not loud enough, then come back over here to the input level and change it. But never get the input level where it's higher than the output level was. And that way you won't get all kinds of noise and distortion. Now, another thing I've noticed is people they'll get a Transtube or Tubefex, and they'll find out that the old Profex settings are there. We don't have a lot of Transtubefex or Tubefex settings with the tubes in it or the knobs where they're active. Well, that's easy enough to do. You can employ the knobs and put the knobs, because people just like to turn knobs. Take any one of these programs you like. Let's say you're playing A122, the St. Louis setting, and you want, as you'll see in here, it's only got a reverb, and it's got a pitch shift, it's got a delay, and it's got a 3-band EQ in there. Well, the tubes over here on the left are not really being involved, but you can change that. If you want to hear them or put it in there, just hit the edit button one time. That's what I did. It was in play. I hit the edit button one time, and now you see the cursor is underneath the reverb. Well, I don't want to change anything here, but I want to add the tube effect. So I'm going to hit the left arrow and move the cursor over there. Now, by going through the add delete, I hit the add button here. I'm going to add something of my choice to the front of this program. Well, right now the compressor is in there. I don't want that. So by hitting the up or the down buttons, I can scroll through all the choices of the effects I've got. Well, what I'm looking for is the TB, which means the tube part of this thing. So I keep hitting it until I find the TB. There it is. That means now I'm going to have all those Transtube or the Tubefex effects on those buttons installed into this thing. And I've put it right there. Now, I'll probably, since that arrow there means in series, I'll probably come over here and I'll put the cursor underneath that little arrow and I'll hit the up button and get a plus there. So it means that the Tubefex is affecting in parallel all of these things. But all I've done here is added the tube effects to the front of this amplifier. Now, to make this stay like it is, I come over here and just hit the store button twice, and it's there. Now, I can twist all the knobs I want way over here on the left, and y'all hear the tube things. Now, it's up to you. I mean, you can twist those knobs. It's real time, as they say. You can play it, and you can hear it. And these are nice little tricks to know, and it's easy to install programs And when all else fails, we say this one more time. No, if you get into an edit program or something and you're not sure what you're doing, just hit the play button and you're back to ground zero and you've not lost a thing. The only way you can lose something is to come way over here and hit this store button twice. You know, if you hit it one time, it's going to ask you, store? Is that you're going to store this St. Louis program to user 122? Well, if you're not sure you want to do that, just come back and hit the play again, and you've lost it all. It doesn't hurt to play with this stuff. Mike, there's a question I want to ask here because guys call me, and I'm sure they call you, and they buy one of these amplifiers, and all of a sudden it doesn't seem to have much power, and they think there's something wrong with the power of the amplifier. And it's not the power of the amplifier that's wrong, it's the input levels or the output levels. We need to show them how to change that. This might apply to the Transtubefex or the Session 2000, whatever.
Okay. Well, the levels, you have various gain stages within the amplifier. First gain stage is obviously the pre-gain. Now, the pre-gain and your master level, you can change those at any time. You can change them without anything happening except for the level increasing or decreasing. And that's really what you want, because in a real-time situation, if you need to get louder, you need to go over here and increase the master level. Increasing the pre-gain level is good to an extent, but you don't want to get to a situation where you're overdriving the input. But in addition to those level controls, you also have levels that are directly related to the effects within the preset. Here we have a preset with ST, which is steel, that's your steel presets, and you have 3-band EQ, chorus, flange, delay, and reverb. So if you want to check the levels in between all of those different effects, and this will allow you to check them to make sure they're not clipping. All right, if I wanted to check the level there, I would hit the right arrow button one time, and it moves the cursor below the either the plus or the arrow, which is whichever is selected. Then you can hit edit one more time. It'll show you what the output level of the steel EQ is. All right, instead of going back to this screen, you can still check all the levels without hitting a lot of buttons to get each effect output level checked. You can just hit the right arrow key, and it'll select the next one, which is 3-band EQ. Select the next one's chorus, flange, output level of the delay.
Now, show them again, if one of them is low or too high, how would they change it?
Okay, let's say you want to get a little bit more level out of this preset, and you want to change the output level of the chorus flange, or, well, let's do this first. You just hit the up arrow key, and you change the output level.
And you can listen to it while you're doing it so you know how loud it's getting and what effect
That's
you're going to
correct.
get.
You can do that real time. If, in this case, if you want to change the output level of the 3-band EQ, you see it's set at 100, which is maximum. You want to decrease it. But please keep in mind, if you look at this whole effects chain as floor pedals, like 5 floor pedals, if you notice, if you change the gain here at 3-band, it's going to affect the gain of all the rest of the effects in the chain. So what you have to do is adjust those levels too. That's not unlike anything you don't have to do now with a floor full of effects pedals. So that's very important. And you can also, there's a section in the global section which will allow you to check the output level there to see if it's clipping. You will have a clip light that will come on. It will tell you what's clipping, what particular effect is clipping in that chain. Okay. Real briefly, we'll look at that, and we'll just push the right arrow key, and you can see the output levels of all of those. You also have a level here. Let's say that you wanted to increase the output levels of all the effects at one time instead of doing it individually here. Well, you go to a global page, and you see it shows an input level, which you can increase. Now that input level you can only increase it if you have ST, the abbreviation for steel, within that chain of effects. So you can change that. You can change the overall EQ of all the presets, 127, 256.
Again, let me mention something here too. You're changing and stepping right to left through this series of events in there, and you can't hardly see the cursor down there on the video sometimes, but you're making sure that by right and left arrow, you're putting the cursor under each one, and that's what you're adjusting.
That's
what the cursor is under.
That's correct. That's telling you which effect, and it also spells it out up here. If you'll see, I'll push the right arrow key and it changes to mid EQ. Changes to high EQ. Well, you're adjusting that. So you can do that. You can cut it. You can boost it. Whatever you want to do. But keep in mind, this is a global EQ. In other words, when you're on this particular screen, whatever you do to that EQ changes all of the EQs for all of the presets. And then you have an output level. The maximum output level on this particular amp is 31. I think it's a little bit different on some of the other effects devices, Tubefex, Transtubefex. I think that number is either up or down. I don't recall a specific number at this point. But that would be the maximum. So you can see that control moving down, decreasing the level. You could do it just by turning the level up.
But some people might have a Transtubefex which doesn't have those levels on the front.
Right.
And so we're talking about being able to adjust either Transtube or a Tubefex did the same thing. Briefly, too, while we're talking about the global control, step through the global button and kind of explain what they get with those different pages in there.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go back to the original preset that we were at so that we can get back to a square one. That's a good starting point. If you ever need to get back to the preset, you're wondering what preset you were on, you just hit the play button. That'll go straight back to that particular preset. All right, let's move to the global button. The global button is just that. The global screens affect everything as far as levels within the amplifier. So let's hit the global button. You see the screen that we just had pulled up that shows you the input level, output level, low, mid, and high EQ of all of the presets. All right, the next one you have is several different things. You have a bypass mode, and you have a view angle. You can adjust the view angle. You can see.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that, and that's by using the up and down arrows, it's adjusting the angle that you can see that screen best at.
That's correct.
Whether you're high to it or sitting level with it, whatever.
That's correct. It just allows you to zero in on the correct angle in order for you to see it properly. The next one, and I need to adjust that so I can see it properly. Okay. The next one is your meter mode. Now that's where I was talking about checking the clipping in between each effect. So that's part of that. That is described in the manual. And then you have a preset map, which in this case is disabled. I mentioned earlier that you can map these presets to whatever location you want within the bank of presets, and that's real handy when you want to line them up. Let's say you're using preset 1, 50, and 75. Well, you don't have to push this button, up or down button, when you're on the name of the preset in order to go from 1 to 50. So what that will allow you to do is to map number 50 to position 1 or 2 or 3, and then preset 75 to position 3 or 4 or 5. Depends on how many presets you have and what you're working with.
Most people use at most 4 or 5, so you can
That's
line
correct.
them all up right together.
That's correct, but there's also customers that we have that will use their steel guitar amp for the guitar. They may have some guitar presets that they want to use. Fiddle players, they love these steel amps for fiddle. They're voiced just the way they want them. So you could have 10 for steel guitar, 10 for guitar, and 10 for fiddle, which will allow you to use a single amp instead of having to bring 3 amps to a job. Okay, we're going to go back to the global button. All right, and you'll see this says receive channel. All of this is pertaining to the MIDI functions of this amp. And we are introducing a remote hand controller, which is called the RC2000. It will be introduced the same time as the Session 2000. And what that will be is a remote hand controller that will allow you to remotely choose your presets. And that will be real handy because you don't want to have to turn around every time in order to change your preset. Back to the screen, this gives you several different parameters to deal with. A lot of guys may not ever use this, but it's real handy if you have certain effects devices you want to use that are MIDI capable. Let me get back to the global screen. Okay. You have another MIDI screen, and what this is this gets specific to the preset or specific to the effect that you're using within that preset. And we'll go back to the global button, and you're back to the main screen. So that's basically it. The knobs here, or the buttons here.
Again, why don't you show them how to go to the tuner right fast.
Okay. All right, let's go to a preset. All right, if I want to go to the tuner real quick, I'd hit the store button, which is wrong. Global button, sorry. And you'll see, you hit the global button a couple of times, and it'll say tune. Well, then you hit the store button, and it will pull up the tuner.
And then you just play the note, and it knows what note you're trying to
That's
tune
right.
to, and it'll say what it is.
It will read out the note right here on the right-hand side of the screen. It will tell you the number of cents it's sharp or flat. There will be a scale here. Since we don't have an input to this amplifier, it's not showing the scale, but it will show a scale. And right in the middle of the screen, you'll see a right arrow or a left arrow. And when you hit that note, it'll be either to the left or to the right. And if you're lucky, it'll be right on it, so you don't have to tune your guitar. It's in
The main thing is it looks like a meter,
That's
but
correct.
in numbers.
That's correct.
Okay.
You have the RAM cartridge slot, which is I described earlier when describing the front panel of this amp. And then you have your master level, which is your master level that controls the output level of the overall amplifier, and that is a real-time control. You can turn it down. It's not programmable. Turn it down, turn it up when you need to do that.
We're going to take some of the older equipment that's still out there that you can buy right now, the old Profex 2 and maybe a Tubefex. A lot of you are still finding those. Some of you find them on the forum and stuff, and you don't know how to operate them or set them up. So that's what we're going to do in the next part. But we need to say one other thing, too. All of these programs that are in the Profex and the Tubefex and that you'll find in the Session 2000, they're all made for stereo. In other words, they were made by about 10 different steel players here in Nashville. And you can get them on the card, by the way, the cash card that we send out. And you can buy the cash card already programmed, by the way. You don't have to have it sent back to us. Just make sure that you order the cash card 32 from your Peavey dealer, and they have the steel guitar sounds on it. And there'll be 128 sounds on there that are all programmed. But we need to understand something. Those programs are designed, and all the steel players that have their programs on there, and I sort of collected them. They're not all mine. There are a lot of different steel players that I just put on one card. They're all designed to fit the equipment that those players were using. Some of them were using digital power amps. Some of them were using the Blue Tube or the Transtube or things like that. So all these programs may change and be a little different to you. But these are great start, the programs we have here. You will probably, more than likely, you'll have to find that you'll have to increase the treble ranges sometimes because the equipment you use changes the tones of these things. All of them are in stereo. All of the programs are designed for 2 amps in mind. And if you're playing with just one amplifier and use them monorally, we say, they're not going to sound the same because these programs are designed to sound like one thing out of one side and one thing out of the other, and maybe the tone controls will be different on one side, or the delay and the reverbs will be different on each side. So in stereo, they'll sound wonderful, but if you're trying to play them on one amplifier, let's say you've got an old Profex and you're trying to set it up, and there's nothing wrong with the old Profex. They're wonderful little machines, and you can buy them cheap. The main thing is, if you try to play a Profex and you're going to put it through a Nashille 400, an old Nashille 400. It's going to sound a lot different, maybe a little more muddy than if you put it through one of the PX 300s, the new digital power amps. We find that the digital amps are a lot crisper, and you can actually use the programs that you find on the programs that we're sending out just straight like they are if you use a digital power amp. But if you use an old transistor amp, like a Session 400 or a Nashille 400, it'll be a little muddy to you. So don't be afraid to go in there and go into the treble, and that's what we're going to explain here, how you get in there and adjust the highs and maybe decrease the lows until you find something that suits what you're doing and what you've got. Stereo is better. It's always better for these things, but that doesn't mean you have to, which means you have to go to the left monaural out. That's what it does. It combines the signal. But it truly sounds different. So keep that in mind when you're playing with these older units like the Tubefex or the Transtube, and you go monaural. It does sound different. So be ready to adjust the highs and the lows. But there again, this is older equipment. Still good equipment. Still runs great. But they were designed to be done with the digital power amps. They were designed to be, all these programs were designed to be done in stereo. So things change, and you're going to have to be the one that changes it or spruces it up. We've got a nice start here, that's all. Let's go to the Profex 2 and what the DPC 750 or the DPC 1000 would be. Yeah, they're not made anymore, but they're still wonderful things. You can find them. This is a front view of the Profex 2 and the DP 750 below. We usually put the Profex 2 up high and the DPC 750 on the bottom because there is a cooling fan on the top of the DPC 750. That's why you need a 3-space rack there. And as you can see, we're going to split the screen now, and we're going to actually get in close where you can see the buttons and see the viewing screen there. So we'll take the overall view here to give you an idea of what it ought to look like in the rack, and then we'll split the screen and we'll go to work. This is the back of the Profex 2, and this is on the right side. Notice the level control is up full on the output of the Profex, and you've got the left and the right outputs there, and they'll come down to the DPC 750 over here on the left side. And notice we've got the outputs, or the inputs of the DPC 750 up around 6. Now you might want to run them full on, you might want to run them at half, whatever. It depends on how loud you're going to play. Whatever, you just make up a few little short cables there. And over on the right side is where you actually plug in the speakers if you're using the classic 115Es. You might use the mono or the phono jacks there, but I don't. I use just the straight wire and use the wire connectors that are in the middle. Of course, you could use 2 sets of speakers on channel B or two sets on channel A. But I like the wire connectors there because they don't come unplugged when you have it inside the rack. So this rack keeps everything sort of in place, but it'll sure get unplugged if they get to rattling around in there. If you're not using the DPC 750 or some other external amp, maybe you might be using your Vegas 400 or your Nashille 400. You need to go into the power amp in on the back like we've shown here. Don't come out of the Profex 2 and go to the front of the Nashille or the Vegas, because then you're preamping everything again. You'll get a lot of white noise, and you'll have to go through all the tone controls and everything. And we've already got the tone controls set inside the Profex on these patches that we've made. So go to the power amp in on the back, and it bypasses everything on the front, all the reverbs, all the tone controls, everything, and it uses basically just the power amp part of these amplifiers. So you can use the old speaker, and you can use the power amp part of the Vegas and the Nashille, but don't go through the head part, because it'll create a lot of hiss and noise. Looking at the front of the Profex, notice the input level over here is about 5. If you're using a DP750 or a MOS valve or something like that, these are external power amps that can handle quite a bit of output. If you're using your Vegas or your Nashille 400, you'll probably want this about from anywhere 0 to 1 to 2 like this, because those amps are wide open, and we've cut down our power amps normally. So on the DP750, or if you're using a MOS valve or a blue tube or something like that, straight up 12 o'clock or in that range, maybe a little bit more. The main thing is when you're playing, there's a little light just to the left there that'll show you an active and a clip there. If you're turning it yellow, that means you're overdriving it. So probably about 5 is all you can stand there. Now, as we go to the right over here, what we want to get into is how to load your card. So you take the card, and like we said, we've got all these programs that we have. We've got about 105 really programs on the card that all the steel players in Nashille have put together. So any of the programs you find in the Profex 2 as it comes from the factory are just guitar patches, and they're not very good for steel guitar. In fact, they're just awful for steel guitar. So you take the card when you get it from us and get the silver side front and get the printing side up, and when you put this thing in there, give it a pretty good shove now. It needs to snap in there. Now, come over to the global button, which is the middle top button. Hit it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And this will let you pull things off of the card and put them into your units. And you can actually read off the card if you want to, but you come over to where it says load. It's the right arrow one time, and notice what it says in here. You're going to load the cartridge into the user group, and all you do is hit the store, execute one time, and that's it. And you come back and you hit the play button, and then you've got all the new programs in there. One more time, when you get the card, just hit the global button. And this will do two things. You may have trouble reading your screen, for instance, your view screen there. Well, the global button will let you adjust how the screen is reading. Hit the global button one time, and then come over with the right arrow one time, and notice that it says VA, and the little cursor is blinking underneath the VA. That's the viewing angle there. Now you can take the right or the up and the down arrows, and you can change the angle that this thing reads. So from wherever you are, if you've got it on the floor, if you've got it up level like I do, you can adjust the viewing angle. And this isn't in the book. They don't even tell you how to do this. They say you can, but they don't tell you how to do it. And that's what that's there for. When you come back, when you get done with it and you find the right spot, just hit play, and you're back in the program. So you can actually pull things off the card, and when you get done with the card, just pull it out of there. You're done with it because you've just loaded everything in there. Now you can literally just play off the card if you want, and what it's done when you've actually put the card in there and you've loaded everything in, what you have is two different banks inside the unit here. There's a bank of A's. There's 120 set different little locations for programs there in A bank, and then if you can take the data wheel and you can really go fast. I can skim through these things, and I can go all the way through the A's, and I can get way up here past 127, and you'll see that the B bank takes over right there. And these are all the patches that are loaded at the factory, and they can't be changed. Those are just nasty, nasty things, and you won't use the B bank for many sounds, but we will use it later, as you'll see, to kind of program some nice patches and keep them in memory, that's all. So you can use this data wheel, which goes real fast, or you can use the up and down arrows, and it'll actually, you can go one at a time if you want to with the up and down arrow, or you can go up, down, or if you hold it down, it'll just take off and it'll run just like the data wheel does too. The thing is, it's kind of tough to stop. So you can punch it and you can go up and down. Now, something might happen here that you need to be careful of. You might be going for the up or the down arrow, and you might hit the right arrow. Notice what happens. The cursor is normally, and should be, underneath that letter right there. If you hit the right arrow, and it gets over here in the name where it says the subtle course or whatever, you can go up and down, and notice it's changing this program and all this. But that letter there isn't changing at all. And this is a programming feature that is nice to have, but if you hit it by accident, you'll get things all messed up. I played mine 2 weeks for a lot and had them all messed up and couldn't figure out why things were all out of order, and that's why. All you have to do is hit that right arrow, bring it over there, and you can get them. Notice that it says U7, and that's the user group 7, and this is the A bank 7. Make sure those two agree. If you've gotten it over there and you've got them out of whack, well, get it over there again and bring it back to where the user numbers and the bank numbers agree. And then pull it back with the left arrow there, and you're ready. And then from then on, they'll agree. And we want them to agree for right now. Now, you should have all your patches in. You might be reading off of the card, but you should go to A's. Make sure we've got it all in there. Here's the thing. The play button is the most important biggie in everything that we do, because that's the panic button for everything. So you just hit the play button and make sure that you're reading something down here. Now, you can go up and down through each one. I'm hitting the up or the down arrow. And notice you get back, I still have the card in, and it's reading the card. So the C, notice the cursor, means the C. So you come to the A bank, and it starts with A0. Now, you can step through them. You can just play through each one of these things, and I'm not playing this thing because all of these programs, literally, are made for stereo, and this video is not in stereo, so you won't hear it the way it truly ought to be. So the programs have a left channel and a right channel, and they have different courses that sweep. and different echoes and everything else. So I'm not playing. I'm just saying hit these things, plug in and play, and go walk through them and try each one. Some of these were written by Randy Beavers, some by Johnny Cox, some by Hal Ruggs. You'll see through here some of the best ones that I use. I've got the first 10, let's say. There's a Larry Sasser one, a couple of them that were written by Larry Sasser. There's some by Lloyd Green as you go up through them, several. And then there's one by Buddy Emmons, and there's one by Lloyd Green again, one by John Huey. And these were all programmed and used by these people too. There's one I designed that was sort of like a Ralph Mooney sound. And there's a Randy Beavers sound, and I think Randy designed the big chorus sound. And there's one by Hal Ruggs. You'll notice something too, that when you go by the A21 or a program that has a P in it, or a P1 or a P2, that's a pitch shifter. And for some reason, when it goes through these programs, you'll hear a loud pop. So there's nothing wrong with your unit when you do that. It's the pitch shifter just does that to the program as you pass through it. So I don't have this one actually turned on through a speaker because you'd hear it pop as we went through it. But the pop is normal, and that's quite all right. And there's for a nice big fat C6 sound, and there's a bright E9 sound. This was a Johnny Cox concoction here too. And then this just has delay in the right side, and there's one that actually has the chorus that drifts around from right to left. You'll like these. And a big fat C6 sound. Some of them are repetitious, but we've changed some of the tone controls in them too. And as you go through them, there's a one by Randy Beavers again, and another chorus with a kind of a cross sound in it, and a sharp chorus. And this has a compression sound in it because this has a nice compressor built into the effects unit here. And there's a different one too. You have literally 18 different effects, and we put them together any way we want. Notice that in this program it says Pressure X. This has a compressor, then it has a 3-band equalizer, then it has a reverb and a delay. And it tells you what every program has in it. And there's a rock and roll fuzz at 33, and there's a different sounding distortion on the steel. That's what the DS in the program is saying too. And then there's a distortion too, right on the edge. And there's a big thick sound. And there's thicker. So we've given them names so you'll have an idea of what they're supposed to sound like. These are Leslie sounds up in here too, so you can actually get the sound of a nice organ or a Leslie effect along with it. And stereo effects where you get two different sounds of steel guitars. And the different Leslie effects on up around 50. I have faster ones, slower ones, and sort of medium size one. Lloyd Green, and there's a Speedy West type, the old style steel sound, and sort of a subtle chorus sound. So really the first 90, there's a sound that Johnny Cox came up with. It's a 65 Emmons sound. About the first 90 are great sounds, and they say there's a ballad at about 400 milliseconds and a delay of about 300. The first 90 are great sounds that you might want to play around with. There's one that Johnny Cox came up with, the Curls, A62, is one that's for almost the curly chalker sound. And there's one that's a real funky or a Strat steel sound, or that's almost a Mooney sound right there too. And a chorus and a 350 millisecond delay. And at A66 is, we call Johnny Cox Dumpling, and he came up with this little program to work with, that give you a little bit of a dobro sound if you have Bruce Zumsteg's dobro pickup. And there's a fast Leslie and a slow Leslie. And there's one that sounds a little bit like Paul Franklin and the mid-ranges that he uses on records. And there's one by Hal Ruggs, and there's one octave down. That's sort of like a pitch shifter that'll give you double sounds. It doubles and gives you the octave below sound. And there's John Huey, again, with a little different sound of the delay, and a subtle chorus, and a fat lap steel sound. So as you go through this, you'll hear subtle changes in tones and subtle changes in delays and reverbs, a little bit of everything. Now, when you get up around number 90, you'll see a real long echo here, around 89. This is, students mostly like this because it gives you a big fat sound. But when you get around A90 here, you'll notice that they're all repetitious. A90, these are all pretty close to what you found up around 1 through 10. We found that when you use the Vegas 400 and the Nashville 400 and their power amps, they amplify different parts of the spectrum. When you use a DPC 750, it amplifies the bass a lot better, and the Moss valves and the mid-ranges. And it always gives you a better big round sound with the external amps. But the Vegas and the Nashville 400s have a much brighter sound. They amplify the highs much more. So we've redone the from A90 up through about A98 and 99. redone the 3-band EQs in them so they're not quite so bright. So it'll sound like it ought to through your Nashville or your Vegases. It's never going to sound as good as the digital power amps do, but at least these little patches, A90 through A100, are pretty good patches. And these are some that Hal Ruggs come up with here that are different soundings of twin reverbs and twin shifts and things like this. And up through about A109, that's a little experiment with a fifth down there. I'm going to get back here to the front, and we'll talk about the actual programming and how things work. So you have the A patches, which are good, and if you can just spin the data wheel, and you can play right off of there. It's reading C. Notice that's the card. So you can read C's, you can read A's, and you can get up through. There's 127 in each one, or 128. The point is, you can read out of the internal side, or you can read off the card. Let's suppose you found a program that you like, and it's pretty close to what you like to hear in terms of tone and maybe chorus and delay. Let's say you found A0, mighty good, is a pretty good one. But it's not exactly what you want. Let's suppose the tone is not exactly what you like. Maybe it's got too many highs, or maybe not enough bass to it. You want to change it. You don't have to worry about changing it at all. Just come up here. That's what the edit button is for. So the bottom left button. Hit the edit button one time. You'll notice that it gives you the program. This means that there's a 3-band EQ in here, and then there's a chorus in here, and then there's a delay in here, and there's a reverb. That's what those things are for. And there's a plus between them. And that plus could be an arrow, but in this case they're pluses because this program is built in parallel. That means it's going through a 3-band first, and then everything is going separately from the 3-band. They're not in series. It's not like lining your toys up on the floor there and going from one to the other. None of them are affecting each other, literally. So we found out that parallel, the plus, means that it's a lot better sound because neither of the effects is going into the other. So you're getting the pure 3-band sound, and it's going like individually to the chorus and then to the output. And it's going from the 3-band individually to the delay and then to the output, and then from the 3-band to the reverb. So it's a cleaner sound from beginning to end. And all you're doing is mixing the chorus and the delay and the reverb in on top of a straight steel, it's not a pure effect all the way. Now, we want to change the 3-band. So we've got the cursor. Now, if we wanted to change the chorus, I could hit the right arrow, and I could put the cursor underneath the chorus, or I could put the cursor under the delay. I can navigate through this program with the left and the right arrows. Now, all I do is I pick the 3-band. That's the one I want to change because that's the tone that I don't like. Hit the edit button one more time. Now it's saying this is what type, if the cursor's on the type. Now I can pick different types. It's got a drastic type EQ, or it's got a voice type EQ, or it's got a guitar type. Well, we found it's just about the guitar is the best one we can choose. Again, if I come back to edit, I can actually I can change this thing. Look, I've got a 4-band EQ that I can go with the up and down arrows. I can choose different EQs. I can say a 4-band, or a 3-band, or a 5-band, or I got what the CQ means. It's a classic EQ. We have found by experimentation that the 3-band is probably the best sound. So just leave it to 3-band. The thing is, I'm going to hit the edit button again, and I'm going to get in here. Now I can get in, I can take the right arrow, and I put the cursor underneath where it says low, and I can change the low gain. I can go up or down with the up and down arrows. I can take it a little at a time, or I can move it over here like this. I can take the data wheel and I can just whiz. I can be playing my guitar, and I listen to these things, and I take them anywhere I want. Notice it goes to a -50, and it'll go over here, and it'll go to a +50. So this is like having the knob on your front of your amplifier, and you can change the bass all you want. Well, I play with that a little bit, or I can do it this way, and I can hold it down, and it'll just run. I find out, well, that's not what I want. I can put the cursor over here with the right arrow, put it underneath the mid-frequency, and I can change the mid-frequency crossover point. This is sort of like the shift knob worked on a lot of things. We found one thing. Probably the best sound you'll get for your steel guitar is between 700 hertz and as far up as about 850 hertz. But I'd leave it in that area right there. That seems to be best for steel guitar for most of the players. You'll find most of the programs, when you look at the mid-frequency, will be in that range. That's just the best way for steel guitar. I can come over here with the right arrow, and I can hit the mid, and these are actually the mid-frequencies, and I can change those. -50, and I can change them plus 50. A little quicker if I go with the data wheel. I can come over here, and I can change the highs. I can go up to 50, and I can go to -50. So I can find any tone I want in there, any way I want to do it. And I don't need to worry about what the original tones were. I don't remember what any of those were, as a matter of fact. If I found what I liked there, I could store this now. But when all else fails, that's what I said, this play button back over here is the panic button. You haven't really changed the original program that came up from the inside of the unit. This is a sample, and you're able to play with it all you want. You can come back here if you say, my goodness, that's not what I wanted at all. And say, well, I'd like to just get the original tone back. Okay, just come back and hit play, and you'll notice something. It restores, you're back into the patch that you had, but the tone that you had is still bad. What you have to do is go up one or down one and then come back. In other words, you need to send the sample that you've been playing out of there and go back inside the unit and bring up the original tone. So when I changed by going up or down one, that's what I did. I went back and got the original sample. Now, let's go back to the edit mode again. I can go back and hit edit, and I can come back over here and I can go to the chorus, and I can hit edit again. And now I can change the rates of the chorus. I can change the depth of the chorus, and I'm using left and right arrows to navigate again, and up and down arrows, or I could use the data wheel too to change the delay. I can change the feedback, and that's how much of the chorus you're actually going to get, how much, and I can change the mix of how much of the chorus is in on top. We usually keep it about 100, and we change the feedbacks to develop how much chorus we want to hear in the sound. I can come back to the edit here, and I can take the right arrow over, and I can change the delays. I hit the edit button one more time, and I can change the type of delay. I've got a tapped delay there, which goes up to about 726, I think, milliseconds. A long time. Or I have stereo delays, and I have mono delays, and I've got 3 different choices here that I can choose from. Again, I can come to the right, and I can have 361 millisecond delays, or I can change that. I can change the feedback here from 29%. I can change it way up to a lot, to 99%, or down to 0. I can change the tape simulator from 8K to 4K to 2K. Usually we just leave it off. It works better. You might want to play with it. We can change the mix from 100% to down below. Again, I'm not worried about trying to remember what the original ones were, because this is just playing around. Doesn't mean a thing. Come back here, and I can change the reverb if I want to with the right arrow. Put the cursor underneath there, hit the edit one more time, and look at all the different types of reverbs. I've got a spring reverb there. With the up and down arrows, I can get a room reverb. I can get a stage reverb. I can get a hall reverb. I can get a gated reverb. I can have a reverse reverb. And I can step on back from the room to the spring to a tunnel reverb and a plate reverb. And again, I could use the data wheel to roll through them. It doesn't make any difference. It's just the up and the down arrows make it a little easier to step. I can change the size of these from large to huge. So you've got enormous capabilities of choosing reverbs here. And you have small rooms and medium and larges and huges. Now you have the pre-delay, which lets you find out where you want to sit in the room. Like 30 milliseconds delay would be the effect of sitting in the back of the room, let's say, from the stage. And then as you decrease here, you get yourself back to the front of the stage where you're sitting like right on the front row. And then you can change the time. How long is this reverb going to be? Is it going to be anywhere from, let's see, the data wheel work better, from no milliseconds to as much as 30 seconds, long time. So I can set any type of reverb I want there. I have the dampening on or off, and I can change the amount of the kilohertz where I want it to dampen down. In other words, if it's got quite a bit of dwell in there and there's one frequency I don't want to hear, I can change that. I can change the amount of the mix of the reverb that I want to hear on top of that original 3-band EQ. Again, I can come back to the edit, and I've changed all of those things. And if I want to, I can back the cursor up one, and I can put it underneath the plus there, and I can use the up and the down arrow to change. Now that arrow right there means that this whole thing has gone into series rather than parallel. Remember I told you parallels where they're all not affected by each other. Now I could change each one of these things. I could step back through here, and I could change these all to where now this whole program might sound totally different, because each one of these, now the 3-band is going directly into the chorus. And then the chorus is going into the delay, and the delay in all of these are going into the reverb, and it has a peculiar sound of its own. You can change those, you can play with them. Again, let's say now you've got the whole program like you want it. Let's say that is the program, the perfect one that I like. and I've got it. And I want to save this, but I don't want to lose the original program either, and there's no sense to lose the original. So let's say we've got it back here just like we want it. We're got it back, and we've edited everything out. We hit the edit, and we say, well, that's what we want to do. That's what the store button is for. So at the upper right, you'd hit the store. Now, I haven't stored anything yet. All I've done is told this thing I would like to store something. Now, it's going to give you a choice of several things. It's saying, do you want to store it to the original user group or the A Bank 0? I would think not, because that's a pretty good program. So now I can change this number, and I think since the first 105 or so are pretty good programs, I'll take this and I'll just hold the up arrow down, or I can take this data wheel and I'll go up past 105 or so where I've got some blank ones, and I can send it up to 111. And when I do this, I don't think I want to call it Mighty Good, because that's kind of confusing. I've already got one that's named Mighty Good. So by hitting the right arrow one time, notice that the cursor now gets in the name part. Now I can use either the up or down arrows, and I can change and step through different things. Notice I've got uppercase letters. And then if I keep rolling, I've got little dingbat type things, all kinds of things. And then I get lowercase letters as I keep going, and I can go one at a time here, or hold it down. And then I get up past the lowercase letters, and I've got more little dingbat things there. And finally, I run out of letters at all, and it just stays blank. So I have to come back the other way, and I can come back, and you'll notice on the front of the letters, again, I'll get back past through the capital letters. On the front of the capital letters, I have numbers, and more little dingbats here that I can use, anything I want to name, but I can give this thing numbers, or funny-looking little signs, or dots, or dashes. Anything that's on a typewriter is right here, and all you have to do is put the cursor underneath the one you want to change. Now let's say I want to call this one, I'm going to call it a number something. I'm going to come over here, and I know that the numbers are at the front, so I'm going to put the cursor underneath the second letter, and I'm going to call this old number 1, let's say. Now, I come over here, I got a bunch of letters I can't use, so all I have to do is use the right arrow, put it underneath the letter I don't want, and just spin that data knob, and I can go left or I can go right, and it'll take all those letters right out of there, and I can clean this thing up, because at either end of these letters and the dingbats is blank space. So you just use the cursor and tell it where you want. Now, if you want to say, well, that's not what I want, come back over here and you can give this anything you want. Well, let's say it's number 1, now I want to call it number 1, me. Now, let's see, I'll just put an M there, and I'll use the cursor right there. And I'll come up here and I'll find an E. So now, that's going to be the name of this one, number 1 of me. Now, if I hit the store button right here, that would store that program right up to there. Right now, I still have the choice. I can store it or not. But if I hit the store button the second time, it's done. I still have the original program, the Mighty Good, with all the original changes, and now I can just send this one up to user number 111. Now, I don't want to do that, and I want to forget all about all those changes, but I don't remember what the changes were anyway. Come back and hit that play button one time. Now, notice at A0, don't panic. It hasn't gone to number 1. All it's done is it's kept that sample. That's what I was telling you before. It's keeping it all there, but if I go up one program and back one program, it's gone back in and it's picked up the original program out of the interior side. So I can still play all I want to with any button I want there, and I can come back to this play button and go up or down one, and that's the secret, to go up or down one, and go back inside and search out the original program, or store it to the new spot. Let's suppose you want to create a patch of your own, and you're not exactly sure that anyone that we've done before is exactly what you want. So if you want to create a program, here's a good way to do this. I've moved it up to A111, which is a blank spot in there, an open spot, let's say. And you never can get rid of everything. I've taken one of the old original programs that Peavey had in there, and I took out everything down to all you can. I just left a 3-band in there. This is where the Add Delete button comes in. Now, I can come in here, and you'll notice where I go to the Edit button, and I can hit the Add Delete, and nothing will happen there. I can't do anything. But if I've got the cursor underneath the 3-band, I can make this anything I want it. There's an exciter, an effects loop, a panning thing. There's all kinds of, your book will explain there's an effects loop there. And there's a little splitter to make a left and a right, totally different sounds. In your book, it'll tell you what each one of these things, like a compressor and there's a distortion, an overdrive, and a chorus, and delays, and pitch shifter 1s, pitch shifter 2s, reverbs. There's a lot of things I'm not even sure what they are in here because I don't use them that much. Classic EQs you can pick up, 5-band EQs, 3-band EQs. So you can go through all kinds of things. Now let's say probably a 3-band's a good thing to start with. Come on over here with the right arrow and hit the add delete, and you're adding something in. Usually the CM will come up. That means the compressor will come up. And notice it came up, and it came up in series. Now I can back up here, and I can change that to parallel if I want to. Now I can come over here, and I hit the up or the down button, and I start choosing what's my next one. Now if you go in parallel like this, it really doesn't matter what order they're in because they're not affecting each other. So you can put the chorus in here if you want to, or you can put the delay first, or you can put the pitch shifter in there, or the pitch shifter 2, or the reverb first. Let's say we want to go straight to reverb. Bring it on to the right, hit the add delete button one more time, and start picking whatever. Let's say we want a reverb and a chorus, and that's it. Let's suppose that's our program. And you say, well, maybe that's not what I want. Maybe I want to get rid of that reverb, or I don't want that chorus in there, let's say. We'll just hit the add delete button one more time, and it's gone. If you want it back in, pull the right arrow in, hit the add delete button, go back and find it. It's easy to change, do whatever you want. And it's easy to just move the cursor wherever you are and change things the way you want them. Now, this might be a program that's one of the originals we had back in the first 105, let's say. Let's suppose one of those programs sound great, but you don't want the reverb in there, or you don't want the chorus in there. That's exactly what you do. Hit the edit button. You'll be in the play like this. You'll hit the edit button one time and move the cursor underneath the blinking cursor. That's what we're talking about here. Underneath the one you want to get rid of, hit the add delete. And let's say you take it out and you say, well, that's not really what I wanted. Just go on back over here to the end, hit the add delete button again, and restore it right back to the original reverb that you had. It'll come up in a different place. That's true. But it'll restore it to the same settings. Now, if you want to hit the edit button again, now you can go through and start changing the types of the reverbs, and you can change the sizes, and you can hit the edit button, and this is where you actually can change and do exactly what we said before about changing all of the tones, and you can set them up any way you want from here on. We did save you a lot of time, though. That's why we put 105 presets on this card up to this point. And there may be more, but as of the time of this taping, there's about 105 on there. We went through a lot of pains finding the right setups, and that's what you'll see there. And you might want to build one on your own, but I don't know that you'll come up with one much better than one of those 105 that's already there. Now, if you don't want to keep any of those things, just come back and hit play, and that's okay. But if you do want to hit to store them, hit the store, say where you want it, bring it over here, and start giving it a name, and you'll have your program the way you want to do it. The B bank is not good for anything. It's nothing but guitar patches that not a guitar player that lives or breathes I know of would use. They're just awful. They're terrible sounds. And it's a useless bank to you except for one thing. We can use this B bank, and notice these are all the guitar presets. We can use this bank as sort of a compiler of our most favorite patches. Out of the 105, you might find 3 or 4 or maybe even 10 that you like to use. Or let's suppose you're doing a show and there are about 10 tunes, and you could literally, with this unit, you could have presets for every tune you do, but you want to be able to call them up in order. Now let's say back in the A bank, let's say for example, you like Mighty Good, and you like, that's the user 0, and let's say you like user, or the A10 and A20 and A30. Now that's easy to remember, and that's why I want to do it. Let's suppose 0 and 10 and 20 and 30 are our favorite ones. Now here's where we use this little right cursor business, and we can use the B bank to call up things back in the A side. Since we can't use the B bank for anything else anyway, and you can't change these, you can't edit these down, they're permanent. I mean, it's been soldered in there. Nothing's going to happen. But we can make the B bank forget that these are here and make it call up our favorite patches. Let's say in a show you have 10 tunes and you know what order they're going to be, and you want to call them up in exactly that order. You don't want to be searching through the A bank. So normally the cursor is underneath the B, and it'll be under the 0, and you can make it anywhere you want it, but let's say for the sake of argument right now, let's put it at 0 because that's easy to find. Pull the right arrow over and you get the cursor underneath the first letter. of that name. Now I can use the data wheel and I can reach way back here, and notice the right side is changing. It says the user group there. Notice the left side is not changing, but everything else in this program is. I can pull right back here to the A10. It'd be a little easier now with the down button. And I can say at B0, I want it to reach back and call up my user or Mighty Good back in there. Now I've told it, call it up. I hit the left arrow and I get the cursor to jump from there back over to there. And now from now on, every time I come to B0, Mighty Good is going to come up there. Whoops, hit it. Now, if I go up 1 to B1, I can come over here, hit the right arrow again, and I can go back to the user group again. And notice again, these are changing over here, but the left side is not. And I can go back and I can find 10, and there's Larry's delay. I like that. That's a good program, let's say. So at B1, I want to pick up Larry's ready delay, or one of my favorite ones. Bring the arrow back to the left, get it again back under here. Notice, at B0, Mighty Good's there. At B1, user number 10 is there. Now, I've got the cursor underneath there again. I'm going to go to B2, pull the cursor over into the name part again, reach way back here. I'm going to go back here to A30, because that's another one of my favorite ones, let's say. There it is. It's still blinking underneath there. Bring it to the left. And now at B0, I've got Mighty Good. At B1, I've got user number 10, one of my favorites for my second song. At B2, I've got my third song. Going up to B3, and I pull it over with the right arrow again. I'll reach way back here. And I could do this for 127 presets. I could call up anything I want in the B group, and it would never play those awful guitar patches. Now, I've got the one I want. I pull it back with the left arrow. And now I've just programmed in the first 4 songs. At B0 is Mighty Good, B1 is 10, at B2 is 30, and I could have 10 or 15 or 20 or 128 for that matter, and I can line them all up, and I can make them play them in any order. I could have a different show every night, and I could have 40 songs. If I knew what order they were going to be, I could line them up just like this, the first 40 of the B bank. That's probably not reality, though. Probably what you'll find is that you have 5 or 6 favorite ones. When you find the favorite ones, send them over here to the B bank and do it like this, and use your A bank as the library of great sounds, but use the B bank as the group that you use most often, so you don't have to go through too many. Maybe you'll find 10 you like. Well, make it the first 10 of the B bank, and that way all you have to do is you go through basically the 10. It reproduces itself perfectly. There's only one thing you want to remember, is that if you are in the B bank, if you happen to be in the B and you want to change something, you hit the edit. And if you hit the edit and you get in here and you start changing things, and if you save it and store it, you are not editing or saving anything in the B bank. You don't get a free ride here. You're still editing out what was in the user group or back in A. So anything you edit when it's back like this, you're editing as if it were in the A bank or the original A bank, or if it was in the C and you were reading off the C, it would be the same thing. So you don't get 2 versions of this. You still only have 1 version. All you're doing with the B bank is using it as an organizer, so to speak, and it's just pulling things back from the A and sending it over here to the B. It's a great little feature to have in here. The main thing is, remember how the left and the right arrow gets in here, and if for some reason your programs get all mixed up, make sure you come through and read. Does the B agree with the B number and the user number agree? In this case, we don't want them to agree because we've made them organized in this form. Now, when I come back over here into the A's, all the A's are right where they were. I haven't changed a thing. Well, that's about it. You need to keep a few things in mind here, though. A lot of people are trying to play with 2 amplifiers, or if you have 2 Nashville 400s or some of the older transistor amps, if you plug in 2 of them, you need to lift the ground or the little 3rd prong on the top of it. And they make little ground lifter plugs that you can buy at any hardware store. It turns the 3-prong plug into a 2-prong plug. If you have 2 amplifiers plugged in the wall and they are both grounded, you'll get a tremendous hum noise, or a ground loop they call it. So you need to lift the ground. So either cut that little the round plug off the top, the 3rd prong, or use a ground lifter plug. It's better just to use ground lifters on everything except maybe 1 amp to keep everything grounded. But if you have 2, you're going to get that terrible, awful hum. So that's one of the most common problems we have there. If you have other questions, any other things that we didn't cover in this video, you can call Mike Brown, and he's there. That's his job, is to listen to your problems and try to solve them there. Another thing you might want to keep in mind, if you're using a rack mounted like the Transtubefex or the Profex, many times the rack will be right down next to you on the right side of your guitar. If you have it close to your pickup or on the right side of your guitar down next to your leg, you're going to get a terrible hum there too, by the way. Either have your rack immediately behind you or over on your left side. And we don't know quite why that happens that way, but many times you get this terrible loud humming noise. Look where your rack is sitting. Put it off behind you somewhere, and I know that's inconvenient, and a lot of people, they feel better about having their rack right down next to them on the right side. But that's a bad spot if it's very close to your guitar. You could have it off quite a ways to the right, almost out of reach, and it doesn't seem to have that problem with it. But rack mounts just seem to collect ground noise in the room. So get it away from your pickup. It's the proximity to the pickup that's making it do that. So get it on your left side of your guitar or behind you, and it'll work a lot better. All right, that's about it. Give Mike a call. By the way, on the cash cards, I can program it for you, and we don't mind doing that. You can send it to us. Make sure you send us a self-addressed stamped envelope. But you can send them to Peavey. Mike Brown will also program it for you. Or if you get the cash card, ask your Peavey dealer. I don't sell them, by the way. I'm not a Peavey dealer. Ask your Peavey dealer to get you the cash card. It's called the Cash Card 32 with all the steel guitar sounds on it. And you'll get it done the right way. But if you happen to get a cash card, you can send it to me or Mike Brown, either one, and we'll program it for you, send it back. If you send it to me, save me a little trouble here. Give me a self-addressed stamped envelope. We don't charge a thing. Neither does Mike. All right, next time.